Alright guys, welcome to Breaking Vegan. I am Jada Engel, and today's episode we're going to be speaking to the great, the amazing Steve Cotter, all know him as the Kettlebell Man. So yeah, Steve, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, definitely. My pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Cool, great. So Steve, before we even start talking about what we want to talk about, give us a bit of background about you professionally.
Give you a brief summary. I'm 46 years old. I've been doing physical training my whole life. That's my first and only job, you can say. Starting when I was 12 years old, I began serious studies of Chinese martial arts, internal martial arts, which is Xing Yi Chuan, Bagua Zhang, and Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong. And starting at about 15, I started teaching part-time through the community center, started assisting my teacher. And then starting at 16, I started doing that full-time. I was teaching professionally all through, my late teens, all through my 20s. And then late 20s, I went to university. I wanted to get some academic training, some scientific training. So I studied kinesiology. And after just under 4 years, I graduated with my degree in kinesiology. Started moving into personal training, and a couple milestones. I was involved early on in when the Bosu balance trainer, which is that ubiquitous blue half ball that's all around the world.
Yeah,
when that was first. Yeah, you probably have one laying around. Almost everybody does. So when that was first invented, the inventor is a good friend of mine, and so I started working with him. They were still being made by hand at this time.
Oh, wow. And
going through all the trade shows all around the country, IDEA and URSA and all the big fitness shows, and demonstrating this. So that was definitely an educational part of my journey. In early 2000s, the kettlebell was just coming onto the scene as a fitness phenomenon, as a fitness tool. And I was one of their first early adapters to get involved with the kettlebell, which that fitness community actually started in the U.S. just in the early 2000s. And so starting in 2002, I got involved with the kettlebell training community. And then since then, I've developed my career from that. And in 2008, I created IKFF, which is the International Kettlebell and Fitness Federation. And that's my slant, my view on how to bring kettlebells to fitness professionals around the world. Since 2008, I've been traveling all around the world, 60 countries I've personally taught in, and running certification courses for fitness professionals. So that's my main business, and that's kind of my story up till now.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Now, when I first, let's just start with yours. When I first met Frank, why am I talking about Frank? Frank's got nothing to do with this. When I first met Steve, it was at the Nike Super Workshop, and I was walking around, and this dude had this face painting on, and I noticed it, and we started talking about a shoot, and he introduced himself, and I said, "Hi, I'm Steve, and I'm Jan," and I spoke to him for about 10 minutes. Not even knowing, I had no idea that it was who he was, and such a humble guy. And dude, it was quite amazing for me to have that first conversation with you and have no idea who you are. And then afterwards, I read that Men's Health ranks you as one of the top 100 fittest men in the world. I nearly fell off my chair. I was like, that guy that I just met. So, tell me more about the Men's Health issue. What happened there?
Well, there's no reason for anyone not to be humble. It doesn't matter what your title or status or what you've accomplished. We're all equal in terms of value. And that includes all the animals and all the people and all living things. We're all equal. So, and nothing that I've accomplished, it doesn't make me ever think that I'm somebody so important, because that's just a very arrogant way, and it's very limited. I don't care if someone's famous or not. I care what kind of character they have. So as far as Men's Health, I was nominated by one of the authors. I'm not sure the detail, but apparently they got a team of authors together that served as the, I guess, the advisory panel or the advisory board to make suggestions. And so at least one of those authors basically recommended me for that list. And, you know, it's quite an imposing list. I think I came out to number 86 or something like that, or I don't remember the exact number, but it was the top 100 fittest men of all time by Men's Health magazine. Number one of all time was Michael Jordan, okay, I believe, wow. and Muhammad Ali, bless his heart, just passed away. Rest in peace. I think he was number two, and so you know, it's a lot of famous athletes. But you know, it's definitely a nice distinction. It's not the thing I'm the most proud of in my life because it's just something that somebody thinks, and it's nice to be recognized. And it's, you know, I don't really think about it. If I'm sure I'm not the 100 most fittest man in the world today because I'm not training all day every day like I was when I was, you know, 20 years ago. Nor should I be because I have a life. But you know, it's nice to be recognized, and I guess it just kind of validates the body of work that I've done more so than, you know, than any one point in time.
Brilliant. I think that's amazing. Not many people have the ability to be humble, especially being, you know, quite high up and respected in their career. And I just, you know, I had the pleasure of doing your workshop, and you were the first person or the first trainer that has got sort of a different view on exercise that's more deep inside about the state of mind and through the way that you train your students. And that is very rare. How did, you know, what inspired you to have a different approach to fitness that is just deeper?
I've been informed and continue to be informed through my exposure to the internal martial arts. Okay. And what I learned at a young age. And so, you know, starting at 12 years old, I was still malleable in the sense that I was a child, not quite an adult, not a baby. And so that's a very powerful time in a person's life because the time spent in those years and the associations and the influence it can have a profound impact. So my exposure has had a profound impact in my worldview and in my philosophy. And, you know, in short, it's internal is your focus is on the inside. Your focus is not on the outside. The power is associated with the breath and the coordination of the mind, body, and spirit rather than with the muscles of the arm, for example, or the muscles of the leg. And so, you know, whereas an external form kind of taken to an extreme would be like a powerlifting where you're just trying to put maximal effort into a single effort. And there's a certain strength to that, but there's also an inherent weakness to that. And, you know, it's interesting because it's East meets West, and me being a Westerner and sort of, you know, American in particular, it's sort of the last Western superpower, you could say, in terms of the culmination of Western society for good and bad. Whereas most of what I do now, I'm in China teaching more often than any other place in the world. And China, to me, represents a body of knowledge that goes back 5,000 years. And however, I see the young people have lost complete contact, and it seems that I have more exposure to traditional Chinese training than the Chinese people do. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but how that relates to your question is that I was informed through the internal martial arts to take an internal view and to understand that the inside and the outside are related. And, you know, we may be focused on all the sensory world, what we can see, touch, taste, hear, and smell, the five senses. However, it would be arrogant to believe that only those things that we can experience through the sensory body are real. There's a whole reality that we cannot see, we cannot smell or touch or taste or hear that exists. And whether intellectually we recognize it or not is not important. There's a whole world that exists outside of man's perception, you see? And so the internal arts has given me this understanding. We look within. We don't focus on the external. And so what I have done is I've taken that and I've applied it to physical fitness and to training, which is really just a small slice of what would be contained, say, in the martial arts, which is a very broad area of study. But I'm never coming from just the muscles. I'm never coming from the biceps or the triceps. That's the last of what I do. That's the easy part. It's really about the mind and about the breath. And so kettlebell, for example, is an art form. It's one art form, but within any art form, we have certain principles and certain truths that exist. And so I found, for me, kettlebells is an art form that I've been able to apply my skill, my mastery, and my experience, because the principles are interchangeable. Everything that I teach about kettlebell, I can teach about something else as well. But being a human being and being that we're all limited in certain ways, we cannot know all things. We cannot be expert in all things. So we focus on what we know well. And so that's what I do with kettlebell and movement in general, movement and the physical part, so, but still the physical has the mental and it has a spiritual. And so that's what I focus on. And it's not mine, it's just there. It's just truth. And I stay humble, I stay open, and that's an important part of it, because I can always learn and always progress and keep improving and keep refining. And my ideas and my thoughts about things now are not the same as they were 20 years ago, nor should they be. And so even our ideas are living, breathing things that actually change over time.
Yeah, brilliant. Wow. That's quite an amazing story. And, talking about your mindset, and you're vegan for the past year.
Yes.
And I remember when I spoke to you in the beginning, you explained how it changed your mindset. Let's just talk about that for a little bit. What inspired you to become vegan? And how do you feel the transition from being a meat eater, protein junkie to veggie lover, #rabbit?
It filled the missing piece. It completed me. It was a decision that changed the course of history. And by history, I mean his story. And by his, I mean mine. So it changed the course of my history. And what inspired me is consciousness. What inspired me is recognition. And being that I am a conscious being, I cannot recognize something and ignore its existence. And to do that would be to turn out the lights and to choose darkness. And so culmination that after 45 years of life, I finally was in the right place in the right time. You could say the stars were in alignment. And I was faced with the reality, and it pained me. It caused me a lot of trauma to realize that I was contributing to the destruction and the decadence and the misery inflicting upon my brothers and sisters who are the animals. And so once I realized that, I never looked back. And I made the choice that I no longer eat animals. They're my friends. I don't eat my friends. And then from that, I was opened up to the world of food, and I started learning about food and what food really is, which is fuel, which is nutrients, and put aside the aspects that are more materialistic, you could say, the ego, which has to do with taste and social and culture and tradition and habit, and just started looking more about what is the food, what's the energy, what does my body need, what am I lacking, how do I get it? And so yeah, that's I was actually watching a movie at the moment. It was called Unity. It was a one-day only nationwide showing. It's made by Sean Mosen, who made the movie. Was it Cowspiracy? I don't know if it was Cowspiracy. It was the first one. I'm not remembering the name right now, but the Unity was his second movie. So I was watching this movie Unity, and right from the beginning, extremely impactful. you see it, you're in a slaughterhouse and the cows are being forced down their concrete prison. They can't turn and run, which is their instinct if you were going to be executed, of course. And then they're pushed into these elevators one by one, and then when they go into the elevator, this big guillotine knife just comes and chops them and knocks them out, and then they go in to be, chopped apart. And obviously the fear and the pain and the misery and trying to escape, and they can't escape because they can't turn, and then they get shocked. They get shocked in the ass by this big electrocution that forces them into their death. And you see that, and you realize that's the reality, and so now you have a choice to make. Because I can't pretend to be stupid or pretend to be dumb anymore. Now I'm faced with the reality, and there's no escaping. And so I did what a human does, is I simply realized that I don't need to do that anymore. I can't undo the sins of the past, but I can stop making them. And so that was the choice I made. And realizing that I can nourish myself better than ever, just eating food, and be healthy and have no conflict, have no separation. And all these things dawned on me, and I realized that how we treat the animals is how we treat each other, and how we relate to animals and to nature is how we relate to one another. So since I have the goal that I want to transcend and live in an environment where there's no longer needs to be wars, there no longer needs to be that kind of suffering, I start with myself, and that's the first step towards that, is not killing my brothers, and learning to be peaceful, and learning to live in harmony with the earth, and learning to be grateful and gracious for the abundance that we are provided if we simply are open and receptive to that. Yeah. So it's probably the most significant moment of my adult life, was just making that realization and that change.
Wow, amazing. And I'm going to ask you the same question. A lot of people all say, "Oh, but if you're vegan, where do you get your protein?" How do you find? Does your body, have you lost weight? Do you feel you're stronger or you're weaker? What are the facts? Because you've lived in your body for a long time, so if you've had a transition, you definitely will be able to identify whether the change is positive or negative, as what most people would think.
Yeah, the changes are all positive. Yes, I have lost weight. I walk around about 10 pounds lighter than I did when I was eating meat. And actually, I'm at an optimal body weight now. My body weight doesn't fluctuate; it's always consistent, right in this range. Maybe fluctuate no more than 2 pounds. I'm not saying 4 pounds, 2 pounds up or 2 pounds down. I'm saying it doesn't fluctuate more than within 2 pounds, and normally doesn't fluctuate even more than a pound. So my body is extremely dialed in. Has perfect homeostasis. So as far as being lighter, yes, but that's a positive. As far as being stronger, I'm stronger mentally, which is the most important. And my body is similar in terms of, if we were to gauge strength by 1 rep max strength, it's negligible. But I'm not specifically training 1 rep max, so it's not the most important. If I was a professional power lifter and I lived for the purpose of lifting the heaviest weight possible for 1 rep, then I'd have to analyze that, but that's not a important criteria for me. And I'm still pound for pound stronger than most people in the world, so I don't really care about the opinion of someone if I eat meat and get enough protein or not. It's not important what they think. It's only important how I feel. So I feel great. And there, in the beginning, there was times when I was. It took me a while to dial it in, and I'm still dialing it in. It's not. I'm sure it's not perfect at optimized as far as what I'm eating and how I'm eating. However, I've made adjustments as I've gone. Probably for the first 6 months, I was definitely not eating enough and not getting enough protein. And so now I take more protein, but not an excessive amount. I just take what I feel I need. And I move, I exercise, I keep my body healthy. So it's really about how I feel. And, you know, on the important things, my body's less inflamed. I don't have joint pain. I don't have bloating. I don't have gas, things like that. So I actually feel better than I've ever felt. And I'm 46 years old, and so anti-aging and longevity.
We've lost Steve again, so let's get him back on the line.
Hey there.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, so you're saying longevity becomes a key?
Yeah, so longevity, anti-aging, slowing the aging process. You know, so all those things are positive. All those things are major improvements. More vital, happier, more peaceful, less aggressive, less tension. You know, and I'm still have all the you know, human qualities there, have emotions and everything else, but closer to center, more balance. And my understanding of that is essentially that I don't have conflict in my life. You know, whatever conflicts I have is minor now. It's just materialistic related. But in terms of spiritually, I have no spiritual conflict. There's no separation between myself and my relationship with the animals. You know, and with the earth, still there's work to be done. I'm still using oil and petroleum and stuff, so I haven't perfected my relationship. But you know, as far as animals, I can go up to them and look at them and look them in the eye, and they're my friend, and I'm not going to eat them, you know, and they don't have to be afraid of me.
Fantastic. Ah, cool,
and the same goes for people. Now, having said that, if somebody gets in my face and somebody tries to be aggressive, I'm going to try to move away. I'm going to try to move away. I'm trying to avoid it. I'm going to see it before it happens, and I won't be there. But if I don't see it before it happens and it gets in my space, I'm going to try to move away. But if the person doesn't let me move away, I'll still defend myself. I'll still be a wild animal. But that's not the same thing, you know. Like, I choose to be peaceful because that's a higher level. And however, there are other creatures out there that are more aggressive. There are other beings out there that don't have that same value that I have, and they don't value life of others. You know, and so also have to be vigilant in that sense, because I'm still here, I'm still work. I won't be anybody's prey either. Even though I'm not preying on others, I'm not going to let others prey on me. So it's that balance.
It's
about being peaceful, though. It's about being peaceful and content within ourselves, so we don't have to confront each other. You know, we can just find that happy balance, and that's what I'm about. And that clarity and that understanding, it comes from ever since I chose to be vegan. I didn't have that understanding before.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. Respect, man.
Likewise.
All right, great. All right, guys. Frank, Steve, I keep calling you Frank.
To be frank, my name is Steve.
And all right, dude, thanks so much for your time. In our next episode, we're going to be speaking to Steve a bit more, and we're going to go into greater depth with his view on veganism and his daily routines and his mindset, because he's got so much to share. So, Steve, thanks so much for the epic interview, and I think we're going to end this off with a little bit more and some videos of Steve in action. All right, guys, I see you on our next show. Peace out. Cheers.
I think it should work. Wish me luck.
Nice. Good work. Jeez.